Welcome back to Small Caps. My name's Kerry Stevenson. I've asked Murray Hill, the Managing Director and CEO of Elevate Uranium, to come and have a chat with us. The ASX code is EL8. Came out with a fantastic announcement today over in their project in Namibia. We're going to talk about that. And we're going to talk about the outlook for uranium and why Murray is pretty happy man. Look at the smile on his face today. Murray, great to see you. Welcome back to Small Caps. Been a while.
It's been a while, Kerry, but we have been busy and it's great to be back. It's great to be coming back with a good story to tell. We've been working hard over that period of time that we haven't spoken, and today's an example of what we've achieved.
Yeah, and that's why I'm really happy to have you come back. But because we haven't spoken for a while, can you just give everybody a brief overview? You've got 6 projects in Namibia, 6 in Australia, but just give them a brief overview and then we'll go into today's announcement.
Yeah, for those that don't know, we're an active exploration company focused on uranium only. We've got projects in Namibia. We've got a few recent discoveries, about 3 recent discoveries at the Marenica project over there. And we've got the largest tenement position for nuclear fuels in the country, which we're actively exploring on. We come back to Australia, we've got £48 million of assets here in 4 individual projects, plus a few joint venture projects that we're working on evaluating. And over the last few years, we've done a bit of value add through application of our upgrade process. And we're looking at exploring on some of those to see if we can expand the resource base there. So, yeah, very, very active and purely uranium focused, which we love in this the world that needs nuclear power.
Oh, don't get me started on it. We'll get on to the big picture for nuclear in a minute.
I knew that'd fire you up.
Well, carbon-free, as it says behind you, carbon-free energy, and everyone's talking about a carbon-free world. And we are in an energy crisis. We're going to need a lot more. And so I was talking to Rick Rule recently, who said he is so bullish on uranium right now. He said, while people aren't watching, this is the time to really start to look. And I really like Elevate. But before we go into the project and today's announcement, you just mentioned the word process. Now you've got a beneficiation process. And that's unique to Elevate, isn't it? Can you just explain the value add that gives?
So it's a process that we developed in-house that essentially rejects 95+% of the mass that you mine prior to leaching an uranium plant. So it means that because you're reducing mass all the way through, the componentry of the circuit gets smaller and smaller, so your capital cost comes down and your operating cost also comes down. And the fact that these calcrete deposits that we're looking for have high acid consumptions, we're getting rid of all that calcite, right? So there's no acid consumption to speak of. Really, it's a really low number. So hence the operating costs come down as well. So we're sort of touted around the sort of rejection of 95+% of the mass and a reduction in 50% capex and 50% opex for applications of upgrade. So a substantial reduction in development operating costs that then was the catalyst for us to go and explore outside the Marenica project, a few years back and build up the asset base that we've got now.
Talk about the asset base that you've got in Namibia right now, and we'll go into today's announcement because it is pretty exciting.
Yeah, look, as I said before, we're the largest tenement holder for nuclear fuels in the country. We've had 3 recent discoveries, over the last 3 years: Koppies, Namibia 4, and more to come, I'm sure. And Koppies is the first one we drilled on, the first discovery. Inside the first 3 years of holding the tenure, we announced a maiden resource. That's unprecedented in the country. And so we sat in front of the minister in July when I went to Namibia and explained that to him that I'd made the promise 3 years ago that if he gave us a tenement, we would explore. And I was very happy to sit in front of him and say, look, we achieved what we said we'd achieve. And having a resource and putting that resource announcement back in May this year, we said we think there's potential to expand. We found this sort of new discovery just north of it, outside the paleo channel. We believe there's scope for more mineralisation underneath the paleo channel and alongside it in weathered basement. And that's what we've gone and done. We've gone and, we're now talking 10 kilometres that we've drilled from the top of Koppies North to the furthest drill line on our EPL. And we've got just under a kilometre to the edge of the EPL from there. So, that's a huge strike length. And in some places it's 1,000 metres wide. So this and all less than 11 metres deep, Kerry.
It's quite close to surface.
It's right on surface. I mean, we've been drilling deep holes, right? 25 meters. We don't even need to drill that deep.
Wow.
We've cut some of our drill holes back in depth because there's no need to drill sort of, down to 25 meters. We're drilling 16 meters in some places because the mineralisation is not very deep. So it's really close to surface. So it's exciting because we're now understanding that there's mineralisation outside of paleochannel, but it's finding it is a difficult one. So we're looking at geochem, geophysics to try and understand it, looking at airborne radiometrics as well, because this style of mineralisation can produce a radiometric signature on surface, even from 2 or 3 meters deep, where a paleochannel doesn't. It only needs half a meter of cover and it hides it. So
is that right?
That's just a difference in the mineralisation within it, and I won't go into the detail of that. Might give a few secrets away to our peers. We don't want to do that. So, we think there's enormous potential, not only within Koppies, but that style of mineralisation to occur elsewhere. We've always just looked for paleochannels, and everybody else in Namibia that's looking for paleochannels has done the same thing. We just look for paleochannels. Now we're looking for paleochannels as a signature. Yes, mineralisation in them, but there could well be mineralisation adjacent to them in weathered bedrock, which was more likely, it was the base of a paleochannel millions and millions of years ago, and that's just paleochannels eroded off the top, all the calcare's gone, and it's left this weathered basement, which, at the bottom of Koppies 2, Koppies 1, there's mineralisation in that weathered basement. We just believe that this is an extension of that old paleochannel that's been eroded. So we're quite excited about what this discovery holds for Koppies as a project, and can be a very significant project, but also what it holds for the rest of our tenements in Namibia.
How big is the tenement? How big are the tenements in Namibia? And why has Namibia got such strong uranium deposits, if you like? What is it about? Is it the rocks? Is it, I don't know, is that?
Yeah, well, I don't know. Not being a geologist, I don't know the answer to that, but the Orongo region of Namibia is the 4th largest uranium province in the world in terms of holding resources. And, we're working hard to make that progress up the ladder a bit to maybe 3rd, because there is plenty of scope. And we're dealing in a desert. We might get 10
I did see a photo, Murray, and it's like, guys, there is nothing there. It is flat. There's not even a tree.
I've not been to Namibia and Western Namibia when it's rained. Probably get about 10 millimeters of rain a year, I think, is about the extent of it. So, whether that makes a difference to these secondary uranium deposits that sit near the surface. If they were in a tropical environment, they would have washed away by now, right? But they don't. So I think the fact that it's a arid environment, and most of these superficial deposits occur in arid environments: Southern Africa, Northern Africa, Australia, Argentina, South America, and also through parts of the US. You can actually draw a map of the world and draw the arid regions, and that's where you'll find some of the superficial deposits around the world. So it's to do with the climate.
Murray, what made you go outside the paleochannel to find this new style of mineralization? Was it what caused you to do that? Because last time I spoke to you, it was about 9 months ago. It was all about the paleochannels, and you were finding decent mineralization there, but this is a different style.
Well, it's a trade secret, by the way. I can't tell you that. No, what it was,
isn't he, ladies and gentlemen? Tough.
What it was is that when we were drilling the paleochannels at Koppies in particular, we'd given them instruction, the drillers, to go 2 meters into basement and to confirm it's the bottom of the channel and then stop, unless it was mineralised. Now, a few of the holes, they were certainly mineralised for 5, 6, 8 meters below the base of the channel. So we sort of thought about this a bit more, and even holes that got very little channel on surface, 10 centimeters or so, we only drilled 2 meters, and then we progressed that to 4 meters, and we didn't really give it a go. So we then sort of realised that, hang on, we probably haven't drilled quite deep enough. A 2 meter hole is not going to cut it, and we saw a couple of holes. You don't normally do this, but we downhole probed a couple of 2 meter holes, and right at the very bottom of the hole, we noticed there was just a sniff of mineralisation in terms of radiometrics. So we went and twinned it. Sure enough, there was mineralisation beneath the 2 meters. So then we thought, hang on, we're missing out on uranium that's outside of the paleochannel. So we then looked and said, well, we think there's an old paleo channel that flowed through here. Let's just see if we can find anything in that. And we drilled a line of, I think it was 9 or 10 holes, and the most southern hole hit mineralisation. So then we extended that line another kilometre, and all along that was mineralised. Struth, here we go. So then we started to progress that sort of east and west, and then we looked at this radiometric anomaly that runs up Koppies, and you see the announcement, there's a radiometric anomaly. It's been known for years and years, but most geologists have looked at it and go, well, it's not paleo channel. It's probably just a granite hosted rock. Don't worry about drilling it. And we've just gone, well, hang on, this is making sense that there's probably something there. So we went and did a field trip in July when finally we were allowed out of the country into Namibia, and we just sort of thought, well, got to drill this. Let's just go and drill it. So we drilled a couple of lines, and all two lines, all 8 holes hit mineralisation. So we go, oh, hang on, let's just extend this, and away we went further north and just followed that radiometric anomaly. So it appears that the radiometrics in the weathered basement is giving us a good indicator of mineralisation, whereas they don't so much in a paleo channel. So it really was, it was thinking outside the box, Gary. It was thinking, well, why are we seeing mineralisation underneath the paleo channel and alongside it? Let's just look around where we think structurally there was probably a paleo channel historically.
Yep.
And then sort of followed a radiometric anomaly. So yeah, it's a different way of looking at it, just unconventional, I suppose.
As the managing director and CEO, how excited are you about this discovery? Because you've been there for a little while, not that long, but you've been there for a little while. Has this made you sit up and take notes and go, wow, we've really, this is a whole different way of looking at what we've got? Absolutely.
It's very exciting. As I said before, it's not just for Koppies, but it's for everything else in Namibia that we've hold ground on. Let's understand this better. I mean, if you look at the strike of Koppies, it's run down the EPL almost perfectly down the EPL. And, you know, we've got a couple of EPLs to the south of that. So we're looking at, you know, how that impacts on those. So we're certainly, I think it's enormous potential for us at Koppies. Marenica, expansion of Marenica, other tenements we're exploring on that we've looked and gone, well, gee, we didn't get enough in paleo channel that we could have got. Let's just go and have a proper look at it again. Yeah, that's what we're going to be doing. So it is very exciting. And I have been here a little while. I've been here for 10 years, and I tell you what, riding the lows of the uranium price and building a company again, you know, we were pegging ground when the uranium price was sitting at $18 a pound.
Goodness me.
We didn't have any money in the bank. It was only 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, we had a market cap of 3 million, right, when COVID hit. So, you know, now we're sitting at 120 million or something rather. And you know, we'd put a few drill holes in the Koppies at that stage, and we knew there was potential. So we really wanted to keep the company going. So it was almost a survival raising there. Wow. And, you know, we had a vision within the company that we could expand and grow. We bought, you know, assets in Australia for a cheap price, 4 cents a pound or something we paid for those. So we really built the company on low uranium price. And, you know, I've heard people say counter-cyclical and all these sorts of things, but it was just trusting that we knew that the uranium price had to go up because nuclear was important, and we knew where to go and find uranium, and that's what we've done. So it's extremely pleasing to be, you know, a long time ago when we had no money, to having money in the bank now, enough to fund exploration and having success. And, you know, I went to dinner in Melbourne only a few months ago with some happy shareholders. You know, they'd been riding us for a while, and we're getting that now. We're shareholders that are seeing the rewards for the time, the money they've put into the company. And that's very pleasing. I get a lot of satisfaction out of happy shareholders, I can tell you.
Well, that's one thing I do know about you. You do care about shareholders and shareholder value. So let's talk about shareholder value, if you don't mind. I'm talking to you at the end of September 2022. What's the news going forward? Your share prices come back. Look, a lot of people in the markets, share prices come back. But what I'm looking for is, where do you see the value add going further, going ahead for people's shareholders?
So I think we talked about 9 months ago that, you know, we're not in a hurry, and I might have said it a few times since, we're not in a hurry to get into production. We believe the best addition or best way of building shareholder value is building a resource base, right? Rather than sort of saying now, for instance, Koppies, we think Koppies is going to be a project, let's get it into production. Well, if you start to do that, you start to lose focus on your exploration goals, right? So what we want to do is we want to explore, right, build up a resource base, multiple resources, and then when the uranium price does get to a significant level that we want to get into production, then we can choose to which project goes first and then the order of projects down our pipeline. So we think there's a lot more value for shareholders if we keep exploring and building resource base. So that's our primary focus right now, is to keep exploring and successfully exploring.
Is the focus mainly for exploration in Namibia right now? We did mention Australia. We don't have a lot of time left, but I do want to just touch on Australia. Today's announcement was all about Koppies and the mineralisation. I'll come back to that in a minute, but are you doing anything in Australia at the moment?
We are doing something in Australia. It's slower to do things in Australia, as you can imagine. Yes. We've got, RMPs and bloody mine management plans to put in place before you can get a drill rig on site. In Namibia, you've got your environmental clearance. You just let the government know where you're going to drill, away you go. So it's a matter of days. Whereas in Australia, it's a very slow process. So, that's, and the big potential for us, the blue sky potential, is in Namibia. So we've even though we've focused on both countries, the gain for shareholders is significantly more in Namibia by expanding resource and finding resources, right? New discoveries, which we've got a history of. So I think the big focus is on Namibia because the blue sky potential and the value add for shareholders.
Namibia as a country, you mentioned that you met with the minister. I assume because there has been uranium mining there in the past, they're very pro it. So as a jurisdiction, safe, good to work in. Taxes are okay. What's
it's our CFO went there for the first time, right, to Africa and Namibia, and he's been with us for 5 years, and he said it's just, you walk into shops, it's just like Australia, but there's black people serving you, coloured people, or white people, different cultures there, right? And things happen a little bit slower in some respects, but I've taken the family there for a holiday. I drive around by myself. It's a great country, and when you think about it, Rossing have been operating since 1976 on a continuous basis, right? Yeah. Rossing uranium mine. So there's a culture of +2 generations of Namibians that are used to uranium mining. They're not scared like first world countries and the lefties are pushing us to believe that uranium's bad. So it's they know how safe it is. They know the benefits to the country and the world for that matter. So it's a good country to operate in, and the fact that the minister pays you respect to take a meeting with him, we've got access to government, that you don't always get in other countries. So they're very supportive. The Namibian Uranium Association is the only country in the world with a dedicated uranium association, which supports explorers and producers, is a conduit to government, to stakeholders. They do a fantastic job of promoting uranium in the country. So it's a good jurisdiction to be. Fantastic.
All right. Well, it's good jurisdiction. What I want to know is what's the news going forward for the rest of the year? You are busy. I think you've got 2 drill rigs on the Koppies at the moment. Is that right?
Yeah, look, we're waiting for some results from a previous drill program to come through. And 2 rigs on Koppies, which is quite exciting. The fact that we've can afford, firstly, to put 2 rigs there and have a decent results in the past to then justify putting 2 rigs on it. So, looking forward to results coming out of that. Drill programs, as I say, we're waiting for. Hopefully, get some results out of that we can announce. So and then it'll be, okay, what have we learned from Koppies to apply to other tenements, and can we go and explore on those? So I'm hoping that we've then got a little bit of feedback from those for future drill programs and that we can pass on to shareholders. So yeah, it's fair bit of news flow coming out of Namibia in particular, but we are doing a few things in Australia we're expecting some news from as well.
Do you think that this new discovery, this new style of mineralisation at Koppies is a game changer for Elevate right now?
Absolutely. We've got 20 million pound inside paleochannels at Koppies. Koppies 2 is 4 kilometres wide. We've now got 10 kilometres of mineralisation in basement, close to surface. You do your maths around that, and it's going to be a lot bigger than 20 million pound. And we do know, having gone back and analysed drill data again from Koppies 2 and Koppies 1, there's more uranium underneath that we haven't drilled into, and there's more uranium on the banks of the paleochannel as well. So It's a game changer for Koppies, but it's a game changer for the way we approach our exploration in Namibia and what might come out of it.
Yeah, it's a whole different way of looking at your exploration going forward, isn't it? And
Yeah.
put a smile on your face as well. All right. We are running out of time. What I want to know is 3 reasons why our beautiful audience out there should be sitting up and taking notice of Elevate Uranium right now. Share price is a little bit soft at the moment.
Opportunity, Kerry. Look, number one, Kerry, is we're the most active exploration company on the ASX, the uranium focus, without a doubt. We're both looking at exploration in Namibia, and we're getting results. So shareholder value is just going to get better and better as we explore on Koppies and other tenements. Number 2, I knew you were looking at me for some reason. There's 3.
That's number 1. You can't.
Look, the potential for Koppies is going to grow, but what we learn from Koppies, we can apply to other tenements. So that's a huge benefit for us.
Yeah.
And number 3, Kerry, we've got enough money to keep funding our exploration. How good's that? So we don't need to go back to the market for quite a while. We can just keep exploring. So, ride the October lows in the share market and give shareholders an opportunity to buy more, or investors to buy more, because this is a fantastic time to be involved in uranium and Elevate because of what we can achieve. And we've clearly demonstrated we're a successful exploration company. So here we go.
Here we go. And they've got
Kerry, let's all elevate together.
Oh, he had to get that one in, didn't he? I know that you'll be at IMARC in Sydney in early November if people want to come and see you in person rather than on Zoom. It's an exciting time. You've got 15 million in the bank, so you're not going to go back to the market. Very, very interesting that you've found stuff outside the paleo channel, which, as you said, is a game changer. And then, of course, the way to keep those costs down through the beneficiation process that is an Elevate Uranium process.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much for joining me on Small Caps. Don't leave it as long next time. And I'm sure you just said there's a lot of news flow coming out. So when that comes out, let's come back and have another chat.
We'll do.